Hello everyone, I am Tacit, and today I'm going to be going over the Gems of War Time After Time event, in which the Daughter of Time is added to the game. This troop is absolutely insane. That's probably the biggest thing happening all week, though we do have a few other things that are kind of interesting. This is quite a few firsts this week, other than this being a really good mana accumulating troop that's been the first in a very long time. This is actually the first event week, I am pretty sure, that we've ever had the exact same faction event twice. We've had it before where we had it on a Friday weekend event and then on the Tuesday following. However, on the same event week, we've never had two of the same faction event before. And now we do. One for the Mirrored Halls tomorrow and one for the Mirrored Halls on Friday. We'll be getting a new Deep Delve variant as well as a new trip for it. Though it won't really affect the pure faction like most of them haven't. The other thing that's pretty nice is it is finally possible, first time now, to go and get all the weapons once again. If we go over to the Soulforge, go over to games, go over to Soulforge, it is now possible to get every last weapon. Right here, as you can see, is the Sword of Ice. So this is the final of all the weapons as far as being able to go and own them. This was money locked for the longest of time. I believe in 7.0 or 7.1, they changed how the new player experience works, and now they get like a draft of like 3 different weapons at the beginning between a blue, a red, and a green one. Obviously, we've had the red and green one, but this is the first day where you can get the blue one 100% for free. Just go grab it in Soulforge for very cheap. So make sure to do that, and it is now technically possible to have all the weapons again without spending money. Well, not counting those ones that are also money locked, but anyways. Yeah, it's a whole mess as far as the weapons, but it is possible to get that weapon now for free for the first time, so make sure to do so. You might need it for Glacial Peaks. It does reach 28 stars as of today, or sorry, 27 stars as of today, and 28 stars as of Friday, since we're getting, another event for it with another trip coming in. But anyways, let's go and get over to the most noteworthy thing all week, and that is the Daughter of Time. This thing is so relevant, we just covered a whole video on this thing before this video even went up, and we'll have a little link thingy for that if you want to go check that out. We'll also be covering another team fur because I forgot to mention one of them in the other one. We showed it like for half a second, but forgot to actually use it because we're jumping all over the place. But anyways, speaking of which, it's Daughter of Time. It is a 13 mana cost, green-yellow. Main gimmick of this thing, it creates 5 hourglass gems and 5 free gems with an auto extra turn. Most noteworthy thing here, hourglass gems and an auto extra turn. This is the most consistent way that we are going to have to be able to create hourglass gems. We are going to be getting something a little bit later this season that can create more hourglass gems than her. However, it's not going to be as consistent, as even though the quantity is more, it does not have auto extra turn on it. So it will have some situations where it won't be able to cast, or you're going to have to wait on it to cast. Whereas Daughter of Time can always just cast immediately, and you're just good to go, as long as she's not frozen, which is kind of hard to do because she is immune to freeze. Obviously, you'd have to curse freeze her or stun freeze her. But beyond that, she would have immune, and you can also just cleanse it off or bless her preemptively with Wand, which we'll be doing in one team coming up here. But yeah, you basically just get your hourglass gems, you go and mana accumulate off this. Is 10 extra mana gems onto the board, so you're probably going to mana accumulate some. You'll be able to then go stagger your hourglass gems if you have single explodes, like 3x3s, destroy row, destroy column, anything like that. Even just mass destroys like Gorgotha, or destroy specifically, or mass explodes like Gorgotha, or mass destroys like Thrall, Leprechaun, all those kind of things end up working out really, really good. Just keep getting a ton of extra turns, and then you just make it into an infinite mana loop. The amount of infinite mana loops that can go forever now is staggeringly high, given that pretty much anything that can destroy even one gem while having any amount of follow-up can now become an infinite loop in combination with Daughter of Time with like one other thing like Bork or whatever you want to use as your mass mana accumulator. So it has a lot of potential going forward. Pretty much the strongest mana accumulator we've gotten since Leprechaun back in 2018. So it has been a good while, that's for sure. Anyways, I'll be getting on to her a little bit more later. But for now, let's go into everything else. As far as the event key drop table is concerned, it is for Glacial Peaks. As far as what's in Glacial Peaks, if we go over to Glacial Peaks right here, click Show All. Let's do some base rarity as well. We can end up seeing everything that is from Glacial Peaks. As far as things that are not in the drop table, the 4 soon-to-be 5 faction troops are not in the event key drop table. The new invasion troop, which is just shiny, unfortunately, and not the Daughter of Time, though I guess that would have been too broken. Wherever it is in all this mess, where is it? The invasion troop, invasion troop? Why am I so blind? Oh, there he is. The Bestial Fae, he is not in drop table. The 4/5 faction troops are not in drop table. The Doom of Ice is not a drop table. This is from Blue Tower of Doom. And the High Priestess is not in drop table. That's from the Volkies. So those are all the things that are not in drop table. As far as what is in drop table, nothing. Oh, sorry. Also, Cypherax is not in drop table. Gosh, we got a whole list, though. Let's start from the top. Cypherax, the High Priestess, all 4 of the faction troops, soon to be 5. The Bestial Fae, and the Doom of Ice are all not in the drop table. Wow, that's a long list. As far as things that are, well, everything else. Is there anything relevant that is in that category? Not really. It's a lot of really average stuff from this kingdom. A lot of freeze mechanics, but there's already so many better ways to freeze, most notably Elementals, like 99% of the time. He's just such a superior freezer to almost everything else. Makes Queen Mab look so absurdly dated, comparatively. Like, there's a few gimmicky things, like Borealis do triple damage freeze, but it's just so much easier doing triple damage burning. Or even Web Spinner just naturally doing triple damage without needing anything as far as follow-up. There's some things that can kind of be used, like King of Ravens is a pretty good, like, keep mana draining kind of troop, but it can backfire, and it just doesn't do enough damage pressure quick enough, I don't feel like, in a lot of situations. For the most part, it's a pretty skippable week unless you're looking to get some kind of star level. And as we mentioned earlier, it is possible as of now to get it to star level 27 and 28 this Friday. So you can do that, however, you're pretty much going to have it stuck at 26, as there are already 2 other kingdoms that are blue that can already reach 30 star, which you might want to prioritize first, which are Sword's Edge, which can reach 30 stars. You can see by us actually having 30 star on it. And the other one, even though it can be, we don't have it currently, is Leonis Empire. Both of those are 30 starable, whereas Glacial Peaks can currently not be 30 starable, but will be at some point in the future. Anyways, as far as other things that we have going on, guild event. We have ourselves the Invasion. As far as the Invasion is concerned, as per usual, you have to use the new troop. You end up getting twice as much magic and twice the score, so you do have to use them on your team, and that's pretty relevant because there's a lot of things you can actually use. If we go type in tower right now, there are 3 options that all have tower. I think this is the first time ever. A lot of firsts this week. This is the first time ever, I believe, we've ever had 3 possible troops. Eventually we'll have 4. Though you'd never want to do that. You'd need some kind of mana accumulator. But basically, you could run all 3 of these if you really wanted to with, like, Hero, or 3 of these with Leprechaun, or whatever you want to end up doing. But, yeah, we do have 3. You have to use the Bestial Fae in order to get your double points, so make sure to do that. Aside from that, just mix and match whatever you want. Put some Leprechaun in there, whatever else you want to do for Leprechaun. You're pretty much good to go. Can't really go wrong as long as you have one of these on your team and maybe a Leprechaun or something similar. But, yeah, I think for the other team, we shoot it with all 3 just for the fun of it, though. You might still want to, like, replace one with a Leprechaun, just in case. This one ends up creating some blues. This one has armor tier, so it does more damage. And this one has 20% stats this week, so it's just a slightly tankier. Plus, you have to use this guy because you need the double points. But overall, should be a really easy invasion week because of that really wide selection compared to normal. Other things that we have going on. Before I forget, let me go do it right now. Glacial Peaks trials. As far as the trial team is concerned, we have Ice Golem for tanking, which is nice. Can also do some freeze, so that's probably not as relevant. We have Borealis, which is probably going to be your first slot, but let's see. How many immune to freezes do they have? Not immune to freeze. Not immune to freeze, but has Skull Dodge. Does have immune to freeze. And doesn't. Okay, so the only thing that actually has immune to freeze is Gamoria. So you'll probably want to go Borealis lead, Ice Golem second, Saga for your win condition, or at least to chip them down. Honestly, Borealis might be more your win condition, really just depends. And what does this guy do? Deal some damage to an enemy boosted by blue. You do basically nothing. You go protect Saga because nothing hits their back slot, right? Yeah, should be fine. Alright, and that's pretty much the whole team then. Borealis, and hope you get lucky on skulls to try to kill the first 2. Because that's as far as you're going to get since this thing has immune and you have no stun. So you're basically trying to kill everything with Borealis. Ice Golem's your backup tank for when Borealis inevitably dies. This is just here to die. And Saga will be your main damage thereafter. And you'll just keep clicking that until you win. Boost ratios, I believe, by all blue enemies as well. Not just frozen, but also blue enemies. And since you're killing them from the front back, you'll have those back too. So you'll always be hitting for 6 additional damage there, which is not too bad. And if you can get a couple freezes there, you'll have a little bit extra damage per cast. So it should be hitting like somewhere in like the very low 50s probably. Or depending on your stats, like high 40s, somewhere around there. And yeah, you kind of just keep chipping it down until you win, hopefully. They don't have too much of a threat. They have a little bit of poke. That does almost nothing because it doesn't scale. Oh, then again, it does scale its magic, but it's still not that high. Steal a bunch of gold. We don't really care about that. The mana drain's a little bit more annoying. And Yeti for the poke. A lot of like small pokes, but it's really going to come down to stats. We don't really have any kind of like auto win condition this time. It's really just going to be bulk it out and just hope that you can get more damage quicker than they can get more damage. And you'll be doing that with combination of Borealis Skulls with triple damage freeze and Saga, just constantly chipping them down until you win. And that's pretty much all you really have, unfortunately. Not much of a overall strategy other than just hope you outpace them on mana and damage. We don't have resummon, we don't have some of the other mechanics that can kind of save you this time around, unfortunately. As far as events going on this week, I guess main thing to mention, of course, the Halloween event has now concluded. However, if you still have any points left, you can still spend it over the course of this week. You have 6 days, or, until the end of the week, until next reset time, next weekly reset, in order to use whatever points you have. However, at this current moment in time, you can no longer gain any points. But if you have any left to go spend, make sure to do so. I'm pretty sure most people have already gotten them all. However, if you need it, the things that you'd want to get are 1 copy of the Witch Armor, 1 copy of the Bloodfang, though honestly, if you don't have it at this point, I would just not bother because you could easily get this in the future. 6 copies of this pet, 5 initially, and then 1 for the Golden Pet. And if you want, the Power Orb. And then you'll be good to go. Anyways, as far as other events that we have going on that haven't concluded, Tuesday and Friday, we have the faction event for Mirrored Halls. The first ever double one. This Tuesday will be a standard one, and Friday we'll be getting a deep delve and a new troop. A new troop's a tank that I guess you could technically use instead of the reflect guy. However, they're both going to be pretty similar, so you can just use whatever, or I guess you could try the new one if you really wanted to, if you haven't done Pure Faction by then. If you are going to go for Pure Faction, it's definitely better to do it this Friday rather than this Tuesday. The reason being is it is 3 days long, so you get a lot more free sigils if you wait till the Friday. Because you have Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and you'll get sigils for every single day. Whereas on Tuesday, it'll be a lot more rush, so I would advise doing it this weekend if you are going to go for the Pure Faction 500, or whatever other plans you have if you're trying to go deep into the faction. Wait until Friday. Like, you still want to do the event on Tuesday, but just don't do it as much. And on Friday, if you really want to reach the 500 goal or whatever other goal you might have, way better to do it then, rather on the weekend, rather than on the Tuesday event that only lasts for 1 day. Wednesday, we're going to be getting the little bunny, just blue mastery, make you surge more on blues. Friday, we're going to be having the Frost Mage class event. While this has been overshadowed a little bit, and by a little bit, I mean a lot of it, by Elementalists, it does still have a few things going for it. As Freeze while having 50% mana start, and on top of that, it also has Arcane, which gives it 1 additional magic every time an ally casts, including itself. It's pretty good with like Dawnbringer and a few of the blue weapons where it actually gains the benefit from it. But otherwise, you're more often not just using Elementalists, like 9 times out of 10 these days, but still has a few niches where it ends up getting used. And as we mentioned, Friday is, guess what? Mirrored Halls again. The Mirrored Halls twice in a row. It's mirrored. Anyways, as far as that, Underspire still the same as always, just Glacial Peaks. And we do have the new troop to go use. The Daughter of Time? That's her name, right? Am I already forgetting her name? But anyways, as far as the Soulforge is concerned, we have Karandera. Right next to Enrage Karandera. Obviously, Enrage Karandera is normally here. Karandera normally isn't, though. So I'd say, yeah, probably Karandera. I'm not saying anything else here that's particularly relevant that isn't normally here. But yeah, Karandera, despite being a theoretically weaker version of Enrage Karandera, is still useful. I almost used it with one of the teams in the previous video we just showed, but I ended up opting not to. But it is one of the better cursors in the game. It has a 50% chance to curse all enemies when matching for a extra turn. This, of course, isn't purely consistent, but when you end up getting it down, especially when using it with Obsidious, can end up doing a lot of value. This gives you your 4 times curse, synergized with something else, you get 4 times stun, like either Elementalist, Obsidious, or anything else, with a pretty decent stun, and you're good to go. Big downside of this troop, there's 2 big downsides compared to Enrage Karandera. One is it has Impervious instead of the Invulnerable, which gives it immune insta-kill and mana drain. And the other big downside is that it only hits 1 enemy with this ability, rather than all enemies. However, that can also be seen as an upside, as if you're using it mostly for its convert, it has a substantially lower mana cost. They both have the same convert and the Doom Skull afterwards. The only difference is this hits all enemies, whereas the normal Karandera only hits 1. However, if you're using it mostly for the convert, you get a way lower mana cost off the other one, as this guy has a very hefty 35 cost, whereas this is only a 26 cost at a 9 lower, so you'd end up getting a little bit easier. And they both have the Fire Link to also get their ability up just slightly quicker. But yeah, if you're going to go for something, it's probably Karandera. It's a nice utility troop to have. I personally don't feel like I use it too often, especially since Wand came out, because I feel like if I ever want a curse option, I either use Catharix or Wand these days. Catharix for the insta-kill, and is basically this alternative Zolgoth, just with curse. And the Wand, because it can bless or curse or just infinite mana or whatever you needed to do. That just kind of covers all your bases. Anyways, Sword of Ice, we mentioned this earlier, but let's go finally craft it. The Sword of Ice, there we go. We now have all the weapons in the game. This is, again, This is the first time you can get it for free, unless you got it like ages ago when you became a new player recently in the last month or so. But otherwise, first time you can get it for free, not counting new players. And there we go. As far as other weapons here, I don't know. Is there anything relevant? I guess I would say Emerald Crystal. It's actually an explodey weapon that gets used outside of this context, just because it's used on Elemental. So it's actually a pretty good of the explodey weapons. I would probably say top 10, lower end of top 10 as far as explodey weapons are concerned. Aside from that, it's just a bunch of utility weapons, so nothing too relevant. But if you're going to go for anything, I'd probably go Emerald Crystal. Or whatever else you might need to build a team. Like this ring might be used in some teams this week. Actually, I think I even used it on one and stuff like that. So if you need them for some kind of team, do so. But if you're looking for something that will be actually useful into the future, Emerald Crystal is probably your best bet here. That and, of course, grabbing that one weapon for the first time has been available, the Sword of Ice. Anyways, so I have a team to go show. It's the team I forgot to show in the other video, so let's go do it now. I'm not sure how I managed to miss this one, but we'll do it now. And this was a Daughter of Time Roadbreaker team, and actually uses the Wand of Stars we were just mentioning. So, of course, we haven't actually gotten to show Daughter of Time during this video. Oh yeah, we need to go over all the teams too. That would help. Imagine if I went over this team and then forgot to cover all the teams. That sounds exactly like something I would do, honestly. That sounds like the exact thing I would do. But anyways, we'll go over the teams in 1 second. But anyways, so the whole premise with Daughter of Time is you cast her, you then cast something that destroys, ideally in a staggered manner, but it doesn't even matter. You just mash destroy, go for some other kind of mana accumulation. In this case, we're just going to go for wand. Rinse and repeat. Keep doing until the enemy says 0 life on everything. And that is pretty much all you have to do. And it is very, very strong. It is the new meta for mana accumulation. Obviously, it won't be used in every possible context, but a lot of infinite loop teams you can end up doing out of it. And has a lot of potential going forward that we're definitely going to need to experiment around with. A lot of different ways to do it. This one's actually a pretty safe team too because it has Bless and Curse. So even if they have Submerge, we could just Curse past it. And if they have Freeze or some kind of other annoying mechanic, or if we somehow freeze ourselves, we can end up Blessing past that. So it kind of covers all of our bases here. And if you could just gain a little bit more mana, we'd be good to go. Thank you. And then we'll Sword Breaker that. Could have went for the guarantee extra turn, but we already had enough damage. And the whole premise with that is that we're using Dragon Guard to scale its magic. Not only does it scale magic whenever we take a 4 times or higher off of its own ability, 1 out of 4 times it'll gain magic, but also every single time we take an extra turn off a Dragon Guard, all dragons are gaining 1 magic, so it keeps scaling, and it just keeps getting a bigger and bigger AoE over and over again. So it's working out pretty nicely. Anyways, other teams, before we forget to go over them all. So, and of course, all will be in the description below if you want to go and copy paste any of them. And we also covered even more teams for Daughter of Time in the previous video if you want to go check that out. But anyways, as far as the invasion teams, as we mentioned earlier, you can end up going with Leprechaun, replace out one of these for Leprechauns. I just kind of wanted to do a team with all 3 of them, and go with Explodey Hero. I went to Archmages so we can kind of get things rolling as well. This would be better if you need to cast multiple times for the super late end, which is why I showed this instead of the Leprechaun build. If you're going super deep, this is probably a little bit more how you want to go. However, you can still replace one for Leprechaun and still be good to go, just to have that little bit extra chunk of mana. Here we're going super cheap. It just uses what we already have available, an ultra rare. And this crown you get for free from just doing the Urskia Kingdom questline. So it ends up working out pretty nicely. As far as the faction, these teams are relevant for 2 times, of course, because it's the first time ever we're having double. Both for the Tuesday and Friday faction, that is the exact same faction, which is a yellow-blue restriction. We're going to be running with the Bork into Daughter of Time combo. Personally, my favorite combo so far for it. And then just use some other thing. In this case, we're using a Vothernax. And just as a nice cheap thing, epic rarity that you can end up doing, has a gem destroy. And normally a single gem destroy, that wouldn't be too much, but that's all you need. You can stagger all of the hourglass gems you get, take them 1 at a time, and just keep getting its mana up, keep getting auto extra turn. You basically make everything into that 1 goblin rocket that gains auto extra turn whenever it takes an ability. And now you can do that with any of them, just by taking the hourglass gem. So very, very strong. And whatever weapon you have, if you don't have Dawnbringer, you just run any other similar weapon that hits all enemies and you'll be good to go. And yeah, that's all you need there. For the higher level range, once again, we're going with a Daughter of Time build. Very similar to the Mistralis one we built earlier. However, this one uses High King Iron Gut, because in this context, when you're in a faction where you're up against really high statted enemies, you're going to get a lot more value from High King Iron Gut than you will from Mistralis. But same general premise. You go and cast Bork, you go and cast Daughter of Time, you go and cast Rope Dart. Just keep spamming these 2. Might even need the Rope Dart. Rope Dart's kind of just there just in case, like they revive or something. But even then, you just keep Iron Gutting, and just keep Iron Gutting until you win. The only problem with this team is we don't end up having access to a curse, but that's kind of the reason for the Rope Dart, is we can end up rope darting them and then hitting them again. You could technically just go with a cursed weapon if you really want to, but the other alternative is just rope dart into hiking iron gut, and even without the devour, you will still poke for damage off of both the two, and you can just chip them down that way. And then we're going to have that high of a durability that it would really take that long for the few that might have immune. As far as the pure faction is concerned, as long as you go into the final battle with 1 copy of Copycat and 1 copy of the Mirrored Queen, you should be good to go. Glass Golem's kind of just here to tank. Starting on Friday, you could also tank with a new troop that we're getting, if you prefer using that over the Glass Golem. But Glass Golem is perfectly fine if you just want to stick with it. And basically, Mirrored Queen, it deals some damage to an enemy, boosted by reflected allies at a decent boost ratio, but you can only have up to 4 reflected. And unlike some things like enchant and stuff, this actually does still take into the effect itself. Normally with things like enchant or bless, the effect would be removed from you before it checks the ratio. However, reflect does not get removed from you when you cast. It gets removed from you when you get hit with any instance of damage. So you will get the full 4 times boost ratio off of this, assuming your whole team is reflected off of the Glass Golem giving you reflect, or however else you end up getting it up. But anyways, there's also 50% chance it summons a copy of the enemy. So this is a really fun faction if you just want to mess around, because you can just resummon into anything. Like, whatever the enemies you fight are, you can take. If there's a web spinner on the enemy team, you can just take their web spinner. If they have, I don't know, a Draculus, and you want that Draculus, boom, you just got full true damage option. You can copy anything on the enemy team. As long as you have an empty spot for it and you get lucky on the 50%, you can just form your team into anything you want, or 3 of them, technically. It's impossible to get all 4, but you can get 3 of pretty much any trip in the entire faction. And it could actually be pretty strategic to take a side path, because it kind of diverges into multiple side paths. It's like a straight path into like some side paths. But it might even be worthwhile to go to the side paths, take a troop that you really want from one of those side paths, make your whole team basically around that, and then boom, there you go. And then you just take out pure faction. So a lot of weird strategy you can do with this. Also, the Copycat creates just a bit of mana. It can also copy things on your team. So once you copy an enemy you want, and you want 2 of them, like double Draculus, double Web Spinner, double whatever, you can just copy that troop that you already copied off the Mirrored Queen, and then you have 2 of them, which is why I said you pretty much just need Copycat Mirrored Queen, because once you have that base into whatever 2 you want to copy, you're just good to go. And that's pretty much all you do for that pure faction. Honestly, probably one of the funner pure factions in the game. I still personally like All Seeing Eye as my like overall favorite pure faction team, just with how coherently it works together. But as far as the funnest pure faction, I would definitely say it's Mirrored Halls, and we get it twice this week, so that's pretty cool. Tomorrow and on Friday. Anyways, as far as Frostmage Hero class is concerned, we're basically spamming Dawnbringer or any blue weapon you have to kill everything out. If you don't have Dawnbringer, go with that one blue weapon you get from 250 wins on Frostmage. I think it's called Frost Orb, whatever it's called. Actually, let me go check. It is called Weapon Blue, all colors, all enemies. It is called Orb of Winter. You get this from 250 wins on Frostmage Hero class. And of course, we have an event for that this Thursday as well. But anyways, you just go in and kill it out with whatever you have, hit all enemies, and just keep rinse repeating. We have Copycat here for a little bit extra yellow mana to feed in Dawnbringer, or into Daughter of Time if you're using the Orb. And of course, Daughter of Time to do what Daughter of Time does. Unfortunately, we don't have much synergy on this team to be able to really work with it, but should be fine. Even just casting into itself is already enough. And just kind of feeding Dawnbringer that last little bit of mana that it needs. Next, we have Underspire. Underspire is Glacial Peaks restriction. So anything from Glacial Peaks you can end up doing. If you happen to have a second Sapphire Axe, you probably want to put that there instead, but I did it with 1, as a lot of people might not have the second necessarily. But if you do have 2, do potentially consider it 2. But Ice Scroll, a little bit cheaper, has the Gem Explode. Once again, with Daughter of Time, we can use this Gem Explode to be 100% extra turn, and just keep staggering it, do whatever other border control we want with it, and we're good to go. We're using the Ice Sapphire, which I mentioned earlier. It's in Soulforge. You could just use this as a mass mana accumulation, also resummons Glacial Peaks troops. And of course, we're using Sapphire Axe as our main damage source. We only have 1 damage source here, however, you could double up on it. And even if you do want to replace that Ice Golem, you can simply just do it with another damage source, even if you don't have a second Sapphire Axe to end up putting there. As far as the lower rarity one, we're basically using Saga. Speaking of lower rarity AoEs, you could put there. She deals a bunch of damage to all enemies, boosted by blue and frozen enemies. And while not the highest amount of damage, she will get the job done. And you keep casting her over and over again. I do feel like she might fall off at the super, super light fights. But when it comes to low rarity things, she's pretty much the best you're going to have. So I'm just going to have to deal with it, or hope that you get something good from Abro Crystal. Abro Crystal can summon any elemental in the game. There's a lot of really good legends and mythic elementals out there. So you could try hopefully getting lucky off of that, and hope that's enough to win. Otherwise, you're basically just using Daughter of Time and Abro Crystal to feed Sagas, and just try to win off of that. Anyways, lastly, we kind of already just showed this team as far as actually using it, but of course, Wand of Stars, Daughter of Time, Wardbreaker, Leprechaun, just a Daughter of Time team. A lot of teams to end up building around it. Definitely a lot of creative things that can be do with this going into the future. It is essentially the new Leprechaun of this decade. Since Leprechaun we got 5 years ago back in 2018, and this is pretty much the closest thing we've gotten yet for like things that will revolutionize mana accumulation for every team. There's just so much this can do. And I'm really curious to see what happens with this in the future. We're probably going to be using this almost every week going forward, just to see what we can end up building out of it. As similar to Leprechaun, obviously they're used in different ways, but they both are very unique mana accumulators that will pretty much always be viable, assuming neither of them ever get nerfed. And of course, Leprechaun never did get nerfed, and hopefully Daughter of Time will stay like this, at least for a little while, hopefully forever. Be interesting to see how it pans out if so. I'm also curious if they're ever going to add an hourglass counter. I feel like they will at some point. But of course, hourglass is kind of the counter to the counter. The whole reason hourglass gems were even added to the game was to counter freeze. But the problem with that is now hourglass has no counter. So they countered one thing, the very strong freeze mechanic. And now they have the issue of the other thing, which is now hourglass has no counter because it was the counter to the counter. So because you can't use 4 times freeze to counter it. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how that pans out in the future. But definitely highly advised messing around with Daughter of Time. A lot of really great things it can be used with. And definitely worth a lot of testing, that is for sure. Anyways, guys, if you still have any other questions, feel free to leave it in the comment section below. I hope you all have a wonderful, wonderful week. I'll catch all of you guys later. Tonight we'll be doing our stream, same time as always, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we'll be messing around with the trial and see how annoying this will be. Because honestly, this seems like a pretty hard trial this time around. Because basically it comes down to, do you have higher stats? Like, I feel like this one will be near impossible with lower stats. It just doesn't really have enough to work. And they have a lot of things that have like chip damage constantly. They have 3 chip damagers into a mana drainer. That is not going to go over well. I don't think it's going to be the hardest week we've ever had, but it's definitely not going to be easy. So definitely a bit of a challenge. So we'll see how that goes. Saga will hopefully carry us with its chip damage slowly over time. But anyways, guys, I'll catch you guys later. Have a wonderful week. See you guys soon. Bye, everyone. Thanks for watching.